Hello and welcome back to ScreenGoo.com.
In this lecture, we're actually going to talk about if and else, if else, conditional execution. Okay, so in our last lecture, we learned about if and else. In this lecture, we're actually going to learn about if, else, if, and else. So, let's talk about the different conditions here. So here, I've got this condition, so I've got this variable called x, which is an integer variable. This is a number here. So the condition is that if x equals 0, I'm actually going to trigger 0, I'm going to print 0. So if x is less than 0, it's going to print out it's a negative number. Because if x is less than 0, that's a negative number, right? And if x is greater than 0, that means it's a positive number, right? So this is like your condition here, right? If and else conditional execution condition here, where if x equals 0, I want to print out 0. If x equals greater than 0, I want to actually print out positive number. If x is less than 0, I want to print out negative number. So how are you going to actually write in your Java code? So, let's say, so I've got this class here, if and else if. Here, I've got this integer variable, so I got this method here, main method, and I got this integer variable, x, okay, so I do that by declaring int front, and this int variable x equal to 15, right? So I've got this if here, says if x is less than 0, I'm actually going to print out negative number. Else if, right? So before I only had else, now I have else if. If else if x is greater than 0, it's going to print out positive number, right? And else, it's actually 0. If it's less than 0, it's a negative number. If it's greater than 0, it's a positive number, right? If it's greater than or not, if it's not greater than equal to 0 or less than equal to 0, if it's equal to 0, then it's going to print out 0, right? So I have if, else if, and else. So I've got this integer x variable hard-coded as 15. So if I run this line of code, it's going to say positive number because 15 is greater than 0, right? So let's try to write this line of code in our IntelliJ. So I hope you guys understood this one here, what I did here. Okay, so once I explain you, I want to write the code in our Java IntelliJ, and we're going to understand it more clearly. So I'm actually going to go IntelliJ here, go shorts, create a new class in here, and I'm actually going to say if, else, if, else. Click OK. So in here, again, I'm going to create a static void main string args. Okay. And in here, I'm actually going to create x equal 15. I'm going to do x is less than 0. I'm actually going to print out println negative number. Else if x is greater than 0, system.out println positive number. Else I want to print out 0. So I've got this if and else, if, else, if, else, if, else statement here. So basically it checks, so what it does here, I've got this integer variable x here is equal to 15. So basically what it does is it compares this x, okay, integer is less than 0, right? If it compares, if this x is less than 0, so I've got this x here declared as 15. So if this 15 is less than 0, no, it's not, right? It's going to go to this line of code here, right? Else if line of code. It's going to say else if 15 is greater than 0, yes. And it's going to print out this line of code here, positive number, right? And else, right? If it does not match this two condition, it's going to go back to here. So let's first run this code. I'm actually going to right click and run it. And it says positive number, right? Because I've got this x integer variable hard-coded as 15. Okay, so let's make it negative 8. Oops, sorry. Negative 8. And run this line of code. And it says negative number, right? So what it did this time, it came to this line of code here, and it's negative 8 less than 0. Yes, and it's printed out this line of code here. it does not have to go this line of code because it already passed this condition. It executed this line of code and it exited your program, right? So now let's put just 0 and run this line of code here, and it's going to say 0, right? So that's how you're actually going to do if and else if else statement. Again, just like in if and else, this is also often commonly used in Java. Okay? I want you to understand how you can use if and else So you can come on, play around with different examples. And make sure you got the syntax correct. Okay, if you do not have syntax correct, then you're going to get an error. For instance, let's say I do not have this closing braces. IntelliJ is pretty smart. It's going to have this rated scribbly line here. Okay, so if I just run this code here, it's going to throw an error. It says that it has reached end of line while parsing, because you're missing the closing braces somewhere, right? So you always need to make sure that you get the closing braces. And once you have a lot of if and else, you might have a situation where you miss the closing braces. It happens a lot of times. So when I do this, I know that this closing braces is actually for this one. If I do this, it knows that this is for this one. If I do this, click in here, it shows that it's actually closing this braces here. So if I do here, it's actually closing this static main method. If I do this, it's actually for this class. So you have to close your braces on all your code. Okay, so just remember that. Alright, so that's it for this lecture. I hope you guys understood how you can use if, else, if, and else conditional execution and actually execute your program for different workflow situations. Alright, so that's it for this lecture. I will see you guys in our next lecture.